Hello my friends and welcome to a tutorial, more than anything. It's going to be a bit of a review of a game called Oxygen Not Included. So it's by a company called Clay, which you probably have never heard of. And it's a really good game with really regular updates. And it's even got a little update tracker in the game itself. It's a physics game. And basically a friend of mine wanted to learn how to play it because it's pretty difficult to get started, and a lot of that difficulty just comes from the fact that there's no tutorial, nothing's really explained at the moment, because they're obviously concentrating on developing the game and making content for it and all that kind of thing, so the new players kind of get left in the dust a little bit. So we're just going to start a new game, and we're just going to get to a position where you can realistically carry on playing without my help. That's the plan, anyway. So, and we're just loading the game here. This is a very, I don't say 100% unique game, but it's certainly the best made sort of physics style game, sort of ant farm building game. So you start with 3 dupes, which are your little workers basically. You can randomly go through and try and get the best possible ones. It's more, I would say, when you're choosing your guys, it's more about just avoiding certain traits and stress reactions more than anything else. Like the destructive stress reaction is pretty bad. Let's see. This is alright. So, binge eater just means that when they get stressed, they eat a lot. But that can be managed pretty readily. So, ugly crier means they like generate a load of water in an area. Anyway, we're just going to get started because it's going to be easier to explain as we go along. You can give your colony a name. There's some pretty funny ones here. The scientific dump, I like that. Spacefaring cesspool. Impenetrable beyond. Let's go with that. Impenetrable beyond. I like that. Okay. So the very basics is that you start with your 3 workers. I've just pressed the space bar to pause the game. And you need to dig out area to build. Now you can't, you see all the build tools here are grayed out. You can't build anything that you don't have the resources to build. So you have to mine some resources first. So what I recommend that you do, if it's easy to do so, is to build a particular kind of staircase right next to where you start. So in order to do that, we're just going to start digging out this area. I'm not going to dig out this bit because the water will flow through and drown my guys. In fact, I'll just, well, I won't drown them, but it won't be good. So we'll just dig out this area. One thing that I recommend that you do early on is, if you go to the consumables menu, this is a list of all the things that they're allowed to eat. And I would turn off the nutrient bar for everybody. So you start with quite a bit of food in this ration box, which is just a load of nutrient bars. But you don't really want to use the nutrient bars until you really have to. You should try and eat everything else that you find first. There is a fair bit of plant food lying around, so you want to get that eaten first before you start using up your nutrient bars. So now they've mined some sandstone. I can build things with sandstone. So I just recommend that we build a storage compactor right on the edge, and then add a ladder like this. And what you want to do is, dupes are capable of jumping one block. So you want a shaft that has a space either side of it. And what this does is it just creates a big tunnel where you can later on add there's like a fireman's pole that you can add that speeds up going down. And it just allows air to flow around your base. So in this game you can see that there's gas everywhere. So obviously dupes breathe oxygen and emit carbon dioxide. And you want the ability to keep the air flowing around your base, at least in the early game. So let's just get this ladder built. So if you click on the storage compactor, we're going to just store all of our sandstone in this one. Okay. So obviously it takes a bit of time for them to get the job done. In the early game, you want your rooms to be 4 tiles wide. So this would be the next room, starting here. Right, I'm going to speed up time just a little bit. So this is these are these plants that they're harvesting here, which should provide enough calories to get through the first couple of days. Now what we can do is we can actually just extend this ladder up to here. And then there's all these other plants in here. If you just select each one and go enable auto harvest, then whenever they're ready, your duplicants will go and harvest them. And that just means that you're not using your nutrient bars early on. If there's no need to, you shouldn't use them. Now if your guys are starting to starve, then you'll want to allow them to go back to eating nutrient bars. But for now, there's no need. Basically what we're trying to do is we're just trying to get to a point where we can generate enough food and enough oxygen to then carry on playing for a long period of time. So this is a water source here, which is just clean water. We will use that later on. But for now, it can just sit where it is. In fact, there are quite a few around. So you see that there's more of these areas where there's a load of plants and such. You don't want to expand too far too early, because outside of this first zone, the other zones are usually quite hostile. And you're not ready for hostile zones. Okay, so what I do early on is I just make a giant bathroom. And to do that, obviously, I need to go to the correct menu. And build an outhouse. I want to leave some space here in case later on I want to make a proper room and all that kind of thing. And I'll want to add a sink later so that the dupes can wash their hands. I'm just going to build 3 of these just because I feel like it's easier to just have a lot of outhouses and to clean them very irregularly than to have one outhouse and to have to clean it all the time. It generates a lot of pollution and we can't really deal with that early on. So you see here, these guys have gone around and they've harvested all this. And it will last for a bit. And they should go and eat it because I've disabled the nutrient bars. So they can't eat anything else. Now to be fair, I probably didn't need to harvest them like immediately. I could have waited a little bit, but you know, it's fine. Okay, so we got our toilets. we can add a water pump here, because why not? I don't actually need water at the moment, but it's readily available, so we might as well take it. You can just skip this step until later on. You see my dupes are hungry, so they're going around eating the muck roots that have been left around everywhere. Now you might be tempted to build a wash basin. The only issue with the wash basin early on is that you've got nowhere to store your polluted water. You have to dig a pit and dump it somewhere, and at the moment we just don't have that available to us. So I'm not sure if I totally recommend building one early on, but I would put it here if I was going to build it. I might build it in a bit. I'm just going to add another storage compactor. Now nothing much happens during the night, so you can just speed through it. Now the next thing that we need to do is just to clean up a little bit. So every time you reach a milestone like this, I recommend that you clean up your base a little bit. Just because there's a thing in the game called decor, which is how pretty your base is, and your peons, your dupes, get really stressed if your base is too unpleasant. And so just giving them time to pick up all the stuff that you mined and put it away, that helps a lot. So you can see here, now that they've got nothing to do, they're busy picking up all the stuff that's been left around, and they're filling up this one with sandstone, well, with raw minerals, because I said that that was okay, and this one they'll put anything. This is on the toilet floor, so it will just be filled with whatever. And as they clean up, the hostile decor for debris will go down. We're not in a rush. You don't actually have to be in a rush in this game. I mean, you can't take forever, but you don't have to rush. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build a bedroom. A lot of people early on just start with a barracks, which is totally fair. So we can get the part of the floor built here. I'm just letting these guys clean up a little bit more. You can see here that the carbon dioxide is starting to build up. And what we will do is we'll extend downwards to send the carbon dioxide down and away from the main part of the base. Okay, so the next thing that the dupes need is a bedroom. So, once again, we will mine out 4. And I recommend that you build doors for the bedroom, because they'll get a morale bonus for that. And you leave a 4-space tile. So a bedroom would look something like this. And we'll build one more on the floor above. You don't want to build too to the side early on, because you have no way to move gas around your base early on. So you can't move oxygen along a corridor very easily, and you can end up in a situation where there's low oxygen levels in the bedrooms, which is not good. So after this is done, we will make the same effort to just do some cleaning. Finish up the bedrooms and carry on cleaning up the base. Once again, I'm not planning out the next bit just yet, because I want these guys to actually get get each job completely finished before we move on to the next thing. A lot of people's issues with this game is that they just try and do too much too early. And by doing too much too early, they keep their duplicants perpetually busy. But then they have no time to do the low priority tasks like cleaning up. You know, these areas are now getting cleaned up and they're not so decor hostile. You can see here that the carbon dioxide is building up really badly, so I'm starting to build a pit to vent it. I think if I connect to this area down here, then it'll have somewhere to go. This material here is oxalite, and it produces oxygen, but it slowly disappears. So in an emergency, or early on in the game, you can connect to oxalite deposits to try and just keep your base with air. Okay, so we're keeping them busy for now. And I would just plan out the next storage compactor to help them clean up. Oh, my bad. I have misbuilt this. No, you can see here that they're like, ah, no air. So we're gonna send the carbon dioxide down into this area, and as the carbon dioxide floods in, the oxygen should flood out. And there's plants here, so the plants should offset some of the CO2, but not much. Don't rely on it or anything. You can see here already that oxygen is flowing up and the carbon dioxide is flowing down. Okay. I'll just store anything in this box. For now, we can't afford to... early on, you just can't afford to be as tidy as you would like to be or as organized as you like to be. You just need to get the ball rolling. So there we go, look, they're loading up the storage compactors with all the stuff that's lying around. If they're cleaning, it usually indicates that there's nothing better to do. So here we were still building this bedroom. There was a bit of algae in the way, and because of that they couldn't get to the build site, so they started cleaning instead. But you do want to allow them time to clean. You don't just want to be like, oh, they're cleaning, I should be getting them to do stuff. You do actually want them to do some cleaning. Hopefully we will have... There we go. So now everyone's got a bed. This will improve the mood and efficiency of the dupes. If you click this last button here, room overlay, you can see which rooms count as an actual bedroom. There you go, that's gone green. So this is now a sealed room with a bed in it. It meets the conditions for being a bedroom. Okay, we're nearly done. So our dupes should now go back to cleaning. Which they're doing right now. They evidently can't get to this to build it at the moment. Now we can help out here by doing this, and then they'll be able to get to it. There we go. The base is being tidied and everything's ready to go. Now, this portal produces extra workers, you just press the print button. I do not recommend doing that until your base is secure. Because the more of these little blighters you've got, the more oxygen they're using, the more food they're eating. And, you know, in a position where you're not producing food or oxygen by yourself, you potentially are just giving yourself less time to get established. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, and unfortunately it probably means destroying part of this plant area, which would be, in fact that would be quite annoying, so let's go here. So we're going to make a new room here. In fact, I set to dig, but we'll start building tiles. And in this room, what you want is a manual generator. You want it close to this side, to the central shaft of your base, so that the duplicants can get to it easily. And then you want 2 tiny batteries. You can get away with just 1, but I just find that's not very efficient. And you want a research station. And then you want to connect these by wire. And you won't need to touch this for the rest of the game until you finish all the research. The advanced research can be built in the exact same way. And when you're not researching, you can just turn off the manual generator and just leave it there and never touch it ever again. In order to start generating food and oxygen, you need to do at least 1 basic research. So you see here, they are happily building away. These take a little while to build. And so far so good. The base is highly oxygenated for now. There are still plenty of oxalite around. The lower part of the base is starting to have CO2 build up, but that's okay. We can deal with that later. We've already got water, which we didn't actually need right away. And the base is pretty clean. Okay, so now you've got your research. You want to go to research and you want to research basic farming, so just click it. And this will allow you to get your basic food and your basic oxygen production done. Yeah, I'm going absolutely simplest base, simplest way to get to a survivable position. So while that's researching, we need to prepare the first room, which will be the plant room, and then the second room, which will be the oxygen room. So let's start with the plant room. We're going to be careful about this water, obviously. And we can actually extend the plant room both ways if we so wish. So I will do that. These plants will be dug out automatically. That's what we want. The research is underway, and when it's done, we will have the ability to make plant pots. So we take care of food before oxygen. Seems like a weird thing to say, but there's usually a lot of oxygen on the map. See, there's another big pocket of it down here. There's a fair bit of oxalite around. Your duplicants will typically starve before they suffocate. You will see that the CO2 levels in the bottom of the base are quite high. When we dig through to this water pocket, all this oxygen is going to be freed as well, and the CO2 will continue to sink down the base. We want it to sink though, because our oxygen plant is going to be at the bottom of the base, where it can best deal with the carbon dioxide. You see that they're starting to hold their breath to work down here. Which is fine, they can hold their breath for a long time. Every dupe is an Olympic swimming champion. we go, let's see. We'll build another storage compactor down here and just fill it with whatever happens to be lying around. This main shaft, you see, it's very important because it's allowing the free flow of gas through the base so that the CO2 can get from everywhere and sink to the bottom. You see here that the CO2 is getting trapped in this pocket, and that potentially could be a problem later on. So what we might have to do is just dig up here and let the CO2 out so it can flow down. Okay, I think the research is complete. I wasn't 100% paying attention there. No, it's not. 9 out of 15. I was wondering why I didn't get a little alert that it was done. But this will give my duplicants time to get this area dug out. These guys are probably actually getting a bit dirty from using these toilets without washing their hands, but we just have to live with it for now. You can see here, look, that they are slowly building up food poisoning. In fact, what we'll do is, we're pretty close to being self-sustaining, so I'm going to add the wash basin. We've got to find somewhere to dump our filthy water, and I think down here will probably be fine because this is already a polluted area. So what we'll do is we'll build a second small shaft here. This area is already polluted, very polluted, but we don't want to connect to it yet because this is slime lung tiles are really dangerous early on in the game. So what we'll do is we'll dig here. We'll hollow out this bit like this, and then we will build a pump, a bottle emptier, and that will allow the duplicants to come down here and empty waste into this pit that we've made. And we can deal with it later. I mean, there's already polluted water down here, so we presume that we'll dig this out in the future. Okay, so the research is done. So now we can build an algae terrarium or a deodorizer. Deoxidizer. So what I would tend to do is, first we'll deal with the food problem. So we build planter boxes like this. And then we're going to put mealworm plants in the boxes. So we have 6 available. We've just dug them up from the habitable areas. This will produce the food that you need. Now there is a food making machine that converts these into more edible food. So basically, you can eat the raw mealwood, which you can see one here that's been harvested, but you can also compact them into little bars. That makes them, I believe it makes them more nutritious and it's better food quality. But you don't have to do that early on to get started. We just want to get started. We just want to survive right now. So this is just the basics of getting to that point. Now we're going to build the... oh, not like that though. The last thing we need to build is the oxygenation, which early on we're going to do with algae terrariums. So, noting that our room would be here, the next room would be here, and the next room would be here. So we want to go like right down. In fact, we'll get rid of that bit. And we want to dig out an area to put our new oxygen plant. Once again, we don't in any way want to connect it to... in fact, we can dig out this whole area. We don't in any way want to connect it to our where our water is going to go, our polluted water. So here, we will set this to accept polluted water. We already have a little bit of a hole here, so we can just start dumping it. Oh, I can't. This is a new feature. You can't dig the heavier materials without a miner. So this turns out actually to be a bad place. So I'm gonna just delete this. Okay, so we're just going to delete that. Yeah, they keep on adding things to the game, keep on changing things. It's very much in early access. So you used to be able to just dig whatever you liked. But now you have to assign jobs to your duplicants, and they have to practice the job for a period of time before they're allowed to dig certain materials. So that's okay. So for our oxygen supply, we are going to put down at least 8 of these. That will produce exactly enough oxygen to keep these guys alive. As soon as we have more plant seeds, which we do now, we can fill out these as well. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is we still need somewhere to store our dirty water. And we're going to have to figure out where that is. Over here seems suitable, so let's go over here. So we'll dig this area out. And we'll make a pit. Like this. We'll add a ladder. We can just plan out the whole pit. Just cancel those. Remember that duplicants can jump 1 tile. So we'll put a tile here. And we will put our bottle emptier. You can rotate buildings by pressing O. In this case it just only goes left and right. Doesn't really do anything else. Remember to re-dig this area out. So you can see here now we have some oxygen generation. Not quite enough yet. Each one of these produces 40 grams and each duplicant uses 100. So 8 is more or less enough to just keep 3 duplicants running. These things will produce polluted water, which we have to dispose of, so this becomes a more pressing need. You can see here that my wash basin is slowly filling up with polluted water as well, which will have to be emptied. And this is it for now. We just need to do some cleanup. So once again, I'll build a little storage compactor down here. We'll give our guys time to clean everything up. You can see here that there's a CO2 build-up in this area. But the CO2 should flow down into this area and be consumed by the algae. Or the algae, depending on how you want to pronounce that. And that will create oxygen, which will then come back up into the base. The next thing you need to research, that you actually need to research, is advanced research, so we'll select that next. I didn't select it straight away because I needed my guys to actually do work. Oh, that's not good, he fell into the water. And I think he is about to drown. Well, that wasn't very clever now, was it? I could just let him die. What is his state? I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of there and live. Unless I free this pocket of water. Come on. There we go, he's breathing again. Breathe, damn it, breathe. Okay. Now we're going to have to dispose of this water. But that should be easy enough. We just dig a pit for it here. What a fool you are, my friend. You got to be paying attention to these idiots sometimes. Look, he's locked himself up there as well. And he's doing the same thing again. There we go. You really do need to micromanage these idiots sometimes. Unfortunately now this water will probably end up being polluted. One way to free a dupe that's got himself stuck like this is they can actually fall quite a distance. So you give him nowhere to go and then you free him. Okay, that was a bit messy. So you can see how the water physics works. The water is sort of less like water and more like... I mean, it's meant to be water. It behaves more like slime than water. It doesn't flow anywhere near as quickly or as dramatically as real water does. He's sick because he got so cold from being in the water for so long. But he will recover. It's not a big deal. If you look at the status, it will say what it does and what the duration is. So in 0.8 cycles he'll recover from hypothermia and he'll be fine. Let's just auto harvest these. I just noticed that he was hungry. I guess there's no food lying around. It says here colony requires med beds. You don't really need them early on. Just let them recover naturally. Now, amusingly, my oxidizers are still working. They're not actually deep enough under the water to stop working, which is very helpful. I was hoping not to have to free that water and then to use it later, but, you know, it is what it is. Let's just get rid of this, dig, because we can't dig that spot. This is obsidian, and I can't dig out an obsidian tile without a miner. It still says insufficient oxygen generation because I need 8 and I've only built 5. But due to our little mishap, it's going to just take that little bit more time to do that. See here, our food is finally grown, so our dupes can go and eat that. Now later on, you'd have to store food in a box. And preferably like keep that box in like a chlorine room or in CO2 or something like that to keep the food preserved. Early on it doesn't matter too much. So these guys are digging out the polluted water pit, which I'm going to need soon. Everyone's going to get a little bit sick now because they've all been going through the water, but it's not game over. It's not a big deal. It's something that we can clean up pretty quickly. Well, not quickly, but we can clean it up. Okay, just speed through the night. I'm going to stop researching for now, just because I need to need to build my cesspit, and I need to free up this water and get rid of it. You see here, look, there's a chlorine room. This would, if we could get to it, it would be an ideal place to store food, since food stored in chlorine never goes off. Okay. Looks like they're hard at work. Now I can turn this on and make it accept polluted water. You might actually want to wait until you've cleaned all of the materials out of the bottom before you start dumping polluted water there. At the moment, the only source of polluted water is this wash basin, and these algae farms will produce polluted water. It's full of carbon dioxide already, which is fine, because I mean, no one's going to be going down here once I've cleaned it up. These guys are now busy tidying, which is good. You should take breaks to tidy. Okay, not much to say here. They're tidying up. Once advanced research is done, you create your advanced, so you got a supercomputer. You create your advanced research station, which this is plenty of power for it, so we attach this on. And then you need a job board to give someone the researcher job, which you didn't need to in the earlier versions, but you do now. So I'm just going to build it, because it won't take long to build. And the cleaning continues. And it's, you know, you'll be very keen to just want to carry on building, build, but you need to take this time to clean. And these guys are not digging this out yet, probably because they think it's unreachable for some reason. So that's something else we're going to have to deal with. Sometimes your guys decide that something is unreachable, probably because of all this water is in the way. In fact, it might be easier if I cancel this, and if I just get rid of the water down here. We can just make a little, a small pit here for the water. Okay. The more of it they dig out, the lower the water level will get. If the water level gets low enough, we can mop up whatever is left of the water and move it into containers. Okay. I still want them to clean, so this will be as much as we do for now. Okay, everyone's getting too cold. Hypothermia shouldn't be fatal at these temperatures. And you see the water now is starting to flow away. The mop feature is what you use to mop up water, but this is too deep for mopping. At the moment, anyway. We can, of course, just potentially just build a ladder here. You can see the water level is now dropping on the oxygenation room floor. There we go, it's low enough now to start mopping. So mopping just turns water into bottles. This can be quite useful because your dupes collect bottled water and move it around to things that need bottled water. So the ability to just turn it into bottles like this actually saves you time, where they'd have to go to a pump and pump it. Instead, there are just bottles of clean water lying around for you to use, which can be almost like an exploit. If you can keep a low sort of level of water, you can actually create lots of water bottles and just leave them there forever. They won't do anything. They'll just sit there until you need them. One other thing that we need is a composter. That's to get rid of the filth that comes out of the toilet. I would always just build this near your polluted water dump, your cesspit. But we've not cleaned all the materials out the bottom of the cesspit yet, so we're not going to turn it on. In fact, we need to turn it on now because we're starting to produce loads of polluted water from the oxygenation room. So let's turn it on. These guys are now working slowly because they are still very cold. Still, the liquid level is too high for more sweeping, more mopping, I should say. If we can just dig this out, we should be good. See, these things use water and they turn it into polluted water, but because we have some bottled water lying around, we've saved the time that we need to go up here and get some. Okay. Sweet. Now we can start mopping again. Once you start winning the battle against a water leak, it's quite easy to mop it all up on a nice flat area like this. Oop, My mouse slipped there. There we go, these guys are cleaning away. I'm gonna build a few more storage compactors around here. They're so cold now, they're working really slowly. But this will go away once they stop getting wet all the time. And they're just eating the meal lice. Okay, so the last thing that you need to do is make a job board and assign a researcher, and that will allow you to do advanced research. So the job board can just be built anywhere. I'm just going to build it here because I have a space. I'm just going to demonstrate this quickly. And that should be really all you need to do to get started. You have just enough oxygen to supply your 3 guys, and you have just enough food to supply them. And it just gives you a chance to build up your base, you know, to the point that you're not in any danger. And then you can really work out what it is that you want to do, or where you want to go from here. Start building nice things, you know, start plumbing in proper water systems and all that kind of stuff. Okay. We're nearly done mopping up here. This CO2 has fallen down here and has gotten stuck in this corner. That's okay. We can then just sweep up all this water that's all over the place. And this is just a case of cleaning up now. We just need to get tidy. Our job board is done, so we click jobs. We assign one person to be our first researcher. Although I don't actually see it for some reason. Oh, here it is. Research assistant, vacant position. So this dupe loves the job, so that's the job that she's going to get. And now that she has a job, she'll have requirements, like she'll want her food to be better, and she'll want better living quarters and all that kind of thing. So I would start researching furniture after that. This interior decor, and we can put some plants in the room and add lights and all that kind of stuff. Okay. You can see here, this is nearly tidied up. As I said before, like, water seems to flow like sort of like gel more than actual water. But it does flow, so generally speaking it follows the rules. But you can get some very strange situations with floating water sticking to walls and things like that, often to do with pressure and the fact that it just has an innate stickiness. Okay, we're not going to reach this dig area, so we're going to cancel it. Try not to leave orders that the dupes can't execute lying around because it confuses them. And that's pretty much it. I hope you like this game. I like this game a lot. I think it's a really good game. It's got great physics. It's very interesting. It just becomes more... In some ways it's very difficult at the start. It's easy in the mid-game, and then it gets very difficult in the end when resources start to run out. But this should just get you started, and then you can get your other research done and just start working everything else out from there. The key is to just not take on any more critters, any more dupes, until you are ready, basically, until you have at least some level of technology and oxygen generation and such, and that you are actually ready to support them before you take them on. So at the moment, oxygen generation is just barely enough to support the dupes that I already have. Likewise, food generation is just barely enough. And if I had a food emergency, obviously I would just go into the consumables tab and put the nutrition bars back on so they can go and eat them. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed making it. It's a fun little game. I have a load of other maps and stuff that I've played with and gotten much further on. But this is just the basics of getting started. So I hope you enjoy this little impromptu review / tutorial, and I will see you next time.